Hello, and welcome to episode 39 of Break the Cycle with me, your host, Joshua Smith. I hope everyone is having a wonderful Wednesday night. I'm stoked to have a day off of work, which, as you know, wasn't something that was happening very often for the last couple months. So I am super excited. Let's start off with some sponsors. Of course, we have Lorenzotti.coffee for all your delicious Italian coffee needs delivered directly to your door. Bring the taste of Italy home. Use BTC at checkout for a 10% discount. And my friend, my partner in crime on Break the Cycle, TopLobster.com for all your wonderful graphic design needs. He's the one who made this awesome Tower Gang shirt, hashtag Tower Gang if you're familiar. And of course, the Break the Cycle pillow from CouchStreams that you can bring home and cuddle with during the show. Use BTC at checkout for a 10% discount. And executive producers, AnthemPlanning.com for all your emergency crisis planning needs. Definitely check them out. Wonderful people. Mises Caucus. I believe the owner became the chair of Delaware recently. I think. I don't know. I wasn't paying super close attention, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Anyways, guys, we have an awesome show for you tonight. I'm super stoked. She's a good friend of mine. We've been friends for a long time. We've worked together very closely over the last several years, and she is running to be the new chair of the Libertarian National Committee. Mises endorsed Angela McArdle. How you doing tonight, ma'am?
I am doing great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Of course. I'm very, very happy to have you on. So why don't we just start off with why, in God's name, do you want to be chairman or chairwoman of the Libertarian National Committee, knowing that it's an unpaid job and nothing but a headache?
Well, I just think that I have a piñata fetish, and I just want to be the libertarian piñata. I just want to take abuse. I want haters to beat me until candy falls out of my mouth. But aside from that, the National Party's failure to rebuke the lockdowns is what inspired me to run. It was just disgusting and disappointing and upsetting. And I want to see the Libertarian Party. I'd like us to meet the bare minimum standard of opposing forcible house arrest and lack of due process for pretty much most of the people in the country. I'd like us to meet that standard, and I'd like to lead us there. And that is the biggest thing that inspired me to run as chair for the National Party.
Nice. Why don't you give us a little of your background as far as how you came to Liberty? So everyone's got this crazy story, and it almost always involves Ron Paul, right? But what is your story? Why are you here fighting for liberty in the United States?
Oh, it's like a play in 3 acts. I don't think it's particularly fascinating. When I was 17, I had a conversation with a guy who was he was an older rocker dude in the community. We were just talking about politics, and I was telling him, oh, I'm a Republican. I'm a Republican even though I'm not old enough to vote, and I don't know what I'm talking about. Isn't that most Republicans? They don't know what they're talking about. Oh, I'm a Republican, but, I don't think people should go to jail for smoking weed, and I don't really care that much about gay marriage. It seems like from a social conservative viewpoint, wouldn't people want gays to get married and behave conservatively? And he said, oh, well, you sound more like a libertarian than a conservative. So I said, oh, great, I'm a libertarian. That sounds liberty. That sounds, close to Republican, whatever, good enough. So that was, me for several years. And then I read The Creature from Jekyll Island. And that book red-pilled me and gave me this worldview imploding moment where I thought everything I know is wrong, and everything about the financial system, it's going to collapse. We're all going to die. The government is a lie. So that sort of woke me up to real libertarian issues, not just sort of this, I'm a libertarian, I don't trust the government, all the way, and some of its laws are bad kind of thing. And it was after that that I got turned on to the Ron Paul movement. And I realized, whoa, there's like a movement of people who care about the stuff that I care about. I'm not just like this one paranoid person floating out there in the world by myself, freaked out after reading this book. So that was how I became libertarian. And then after that, I got involved by attending meetups at the Pasadena, the local LP meetups, and got plugged into the community, and then eventually got roped into running for Congress by Ted Brown, the former California LP chair.
Yep.
So it was like a very long process for me. It was over 10 years of getting really more and more steeped in libertarianism, meeting people, getting more educated, reading more books about it, not just being like the paranoid weirdo, screaming about the Federal Reserve. I joined the community of paranoid weirdos screaming about the Federal
Exactly.
Reserve.
We are a community of weirdos that are worried about the Federal Reserve. Absolutely. But you bring up a really good issue. You're a Californian. I am what I like to call a recovering Californian. I now live in Iowa. I no longer live in the Bay Area of California. But I left California 5 minutes before they instituted the 24-hour lockdown back in March of 2020. And I'm on the LNC. Now, as an at-large on the LNC, you know just as much as I do, I have no power whatsoever to craft the message for the Libertarian National Committee. But I did scream it from the rooftops that these lockdowns were bullshit. The government backed tyranny that has been handed to us on a silver platter should have been the number one issue for the last year for the Libertarian Party. It's everything that we stand against completely 100%, and we just fail completely flat. What would you have done had you been the chairperson of the National Committee?
So there's what I could do as chair if I was dealt a shit hand of having an ineffective LNC board where a majority of people don't want to speak out against the lockdowns. And then there's what I would do if I had a cooperative national committee. If I had a cooperative national committee, that would be great. You would see messaging coming, from the LP. You would see really good social media takes. You would see messages coming out from the communications director. To the extent that I have control over that, you would be seeing the Libertarian Party speak out against the lockdowns unapologetically every single day. And also highlighting the lockdowns in different states and the different issues that they've got and the federal issues that wrap up into that. But what would I do if I became chair and I didn't have the support from the committee? If I was just kind of hamstrung? You can still send out messages opposing the lockdowns as a message from the chair. When you get on the phone and call donors, which is something you're supposed to do as chair, you can talk about lockdowns. You can talk about it from your social media. You can blast it all over the place. You can appoint as many people as you're allowed to various committees to try to balance out, the ineffectiveness of the rest of the LNC. There's so much that could be done. It's really disappointing that it wasn't done over the last year. But that's what I'd do.
Sure.
You can talk about it from a due process perspective, too. Everybody was denied due process. Business owners were just shut down. They didn't get to go to court. They didn't have a fight over it. Landlords, who everyone likes to hate on, they've had their income taken away from them now in California for over a year. There are so many people that you could reach out to on this and so many coalitions should build. I think that the chair should be spearheading that and at least, motivating and guiding people.
Sure.
That's what I hope to do in the future.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think, look, I ran against Joe Bishop Henchman last year. You know that. And I disagree fundamentally on the way he runs the board and the direction he wanted to take the party. I don't dislike Joe Bishop Henchman, though. He's like a nice person. I mean, his husband sent us a new baby blanket for our baby. I mean, they're really sweet, nice people. He's very blue-pilled. I think that he's very blue-pilled, and thankfully we come from a sect of libertarianism that is not at all blue-pilled. We are very untrusting of the government, and we're definitely not going to go along with their bullshit tyranny that they're putting out now. So I think that, he comes from a part of the party that unfortunately thinks that we were doing the right thing as far as locking people in their homes and now these forced, these talks of all kinds of forcing of medical tyranny and stuff like that as well is just insane to me. Is that something that you're worried about, the forced medical tyranny in California? Is that something that you guys are going to be facing?
Oh, we're already facing it. In 2014 or 2015, California passed a bill called SB 277 that mandated uh, all vaccinations for children in public and private schools. And you could not get a religious exemption, and it made it almost impossible to get a medical exemption. So we've already dealt with this. And State Senator Pan is the one who's spearheading it. And he's an incredibly corrupt and morally bankrupt individual. So, we've already got that. And I'm sure that we're going to be seeing, well, we're already seeing to a small scale, local municipalities talk about pushing COVID passports, trying to push that kind of crap. There have been a few businesses that have gone viral for putting out vaccinated customers welcome to eat indoors, everyone else outside. Yeah, we're already there. And, as disgusting as it is in California, and don't blame you and plenty of other people for leaving, California is like a canary in the coal mine. Got to be really careful, because the saying is, so goes California, so goes the nation. And I think it's true.
True.
I'd like to see a secession movement happen and that sort of stuff. But my biggest fear is, all this crap that's happening in California, mandatory vaccinations, lockdowns, crazy government that is coming for the rest of the country.
Yeah, except for Iowa, thankfully. I live in a place where our governor has now made mask mandates illegal completely. She signed it into law an hour after the legislative vote. And then now she's saying she'll use executive order or legislative process to make the passports illegal as well. So, there are some states out there that are holding on to a little bit of what we would like to see happen. It's few and far between as far as most states go, though. There's no doubt about it. As far as I'm concerned, it's North Dakota, Texas, Iowa, and Florida. But hopefully, more states will pick up that. But who knows? And they're going to be incentivized not to.
But as long as California people keep moving out and taking their crap politics with them,
hey,
it's like no one is safe.
I brought the good politics with me to Iowa. You know what I mean?
You brought the good politics, but my neighbors, other people I know, they're moving out. Arizona is a big place that they're going. Arizona's lost. Yeah, it's really frightening. They complain about all of the garbage heaps and the homelessness crisis and what a disaster the cities are, and then they move out and they just vote the same stupid policies in. So protect Iowa, make Iowa close borders.
Absolutely. Well, and
Really.
The funny thing is for people who don't know anything about Governor Gavin Newsom, he was the mayor of San Francisco and completely destroyed that city. I mean, that city, I grew up less than 30 minutes away from San Francisco. We used to love going there. It's beautiful. It smelled like the sea. It was great. Now it smells like shit. There's hypodermic needles everywhere. It's just a giant shithole. And it was created in that image by Gavin Newsom. And instead of saying, that guy really fucked up that city, they said, yeah, that guy really fucked up that city, but let's vote him in as governor of the entire state and see if we can't get that on the state level.
It's like California operates like a Dilbert cartoon. It's like comical slapstick levels of incompetence, and people get promoted for it.
Right.
I don't really understand it. It's an interesting phenomenon that happens in the corporate world, and we see it happen in politics too. Someone embarrasses themselves and makes such a fool, like Garcetti, just turns a beautiful, vibrant metropolitan area into a shithole, like as bad as the worst third world country, like an open air asylum. And people say, well, gee, I mean, he got, we voted him in because we know he's quite capable of doing something good. Maybe this just isn't a good fit for him. Let's promote him upwards. That'll probably cure it. Then we'll really show everyone, it'll be his time to shine. It makes no sense. It's so irrational.
Sure. Yeah. And definitely and it was the same with Jerry Brown too, right? Jerry Brown had a couple of decent things, actually. He was pretty fiscally conservative for, who he was. But he had actually been forced to step down from governor, a couple decades ago. And then fast forward 2 decades and they voted him back in for 2 terms after being forced to step down for bad shit. They voted him back in for 2 terms. I don't know what's going on in California. It's pretty crazy, but so let's talk a little bit more about your chair run here. I mean, I think that's what everybody wants to know. You know what I mean? What are, as a former candidate for chairman of the Libertarian National Committee and somebody who's been on the National Committee now in my 2nd term, thinking about doing a 3rd term, I'm not sure, solely to piss off the nerds. what is your platform? I mean, what is it that you want to see that national committee get done?
Oh, well, I think the biggest thing is we got to change messaging. We need to dramatically improve messaging. We need to increase our membership. I know that there are certain people in the LNC who don't value membership, and I just fundamentally disagree with
Including
that.
our current chair.
And yeah, and we need to broaden our donor base. You know, the LNC meeting just happened. I was there for the second half of it, and I looked at the financials, and you know, I want to give credit where credit is due. I'm glad that fundraising has increased a little bit, but it's not in a good place. And you know, it's difficult. I don't want to like shit all over people for making an improvement, but at the same time, I'm kind of disgusted that we're patting ourselves on the back for what? A little less than $10,000 was raised from an email campaign that was sent out condemning the insurrection at the Capitol.
Right.
And then we want to celebrate that as our biggest fundraising push so far this year. It's kind of embarrassing.
Very embarrassing.
You know, I'm embarrassed when I see that. And everyone's like, good job. And I'm just like, okay, well, I'm glad we made some money, but I don't know if, you know, we should be popping champagne over this.
Right. Well, and they made this big stink over how much better we're doing now, and then Aaron Adams and I and John Phillips looked at the actual numbers. It's only like $3 more per member of the National Party. It's literally that's how much better we're doing right now. $3 more per member, and that's nothing. And a lot of that is new membership from the Mises Caucus.
Yes.
I mean,
and there's never a mention of that.
Of course not.
Never a mention of
Of course not. They start handing out all these accolades and all this great stuff, and it's like, I wanted to scream, like, I brought in 2,000 new members last year. Where's my accolades? Where's the accolades for the Mises Caucus and Dave and Tom Woods bringing in new members? You know what I mean? They don't talk about that shit. They all want to act like it's their little bullshit emails that make all the money. That's just certainly not the truth. It's the membership. Absolutely.
It's the fundraising right now. All of the campaigns that I've seen are very uninspiring. I think we should inspire people. I think we will raise more money if we have better messaging, if we are consistent, if we touch on, you know, serious issues that people actually care about that are right in our faces right now. I think we're going to make more money. I think we're going to grow membership. I don't know why that's so controversial and scary, but you know, that's what I'm here for.
Sure.
That's what I want to see happen.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Let's check. We got some super chats I want to check with real quick. Matt Lally, thank you for the super chat. He said, "Can you ask Angela about LP on Bitcoin? What are your feelings on Bitcoin, Angela, for the party?"
Well, the Libertarian Party does take Bitcoin donations. So, I mean, I think that's great. I'd like to see the LP talk about Bitcoin a little bit more. We don't necessarily talk about that, I guess, enough. To be fair, though, we don't talk about a lot of things very often. Sure. You know, like we just don't talk much. The social media is not that active. I don't think there's any articles about Bitcoin on the website. You know, we could definitely improve that. And I would like to see a little bit more outreach to the Bitcoin community.
Sure. Well, you know, during my first run for chair in 2017, Michael Heiss and I and Preston Smith, who was one of the guys that helped found Nexus Earth, we showed up to get a crypto group made in the party, like a committee. And we actually got it passed, but then Nick was able to populate that committee, and he populated it really badly, and it never really went anywhere. And it was supposed to be focusing on how to use blockchain in the party for party processes, but also how to outreach more to the crypto community, because I ran on a platform that was like, yo, we need to really be reaching out to the crypto community. I think the crypto community is one of the most important communities in the United States, in the world, for libertarians, because these are largely young, rich, libertarian-minded people who are investing in a currency that is decentralized and circumvents the federal government. So I would hope personally that when you do become chair, you do take a more staunch role in bringing the crypto community into the party for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see. Reed Coverdale, thanks for the super chat. He said, Angela has my support. Nice. Quest Fanning says,
thanks, Reed.
Quest Fanning says, either of you would be worlds better as LP chair than these past couple of individuals. Inspirational, honest, positive, and practical. Thank you, sir. And then we got a new one from Danny AI. This was one I was going to bring up with you anyway. So he said, Josh, Angelo, what do you think about the Liberty Unity movement and those within the party that call Tom Woods, Dave Smith disparaging names? So this is a two-part question. It is a big super chat, so thank you. $20 super chat. I appreciate you, Danny. Let's start with the Unity movement. That's something that's being pushed hugely right now. I've made it very clear that I am anti-Unity with the blue-pilled slanderous nerds in the party. It's not that I want to throw them out of the party, but I definitely want them to take a back seat in everything that we do as a party, and I don't want them to have control, especially of the messaging anymore, which is happening less and less as we go over. We'll talk more about that, obviously, with some of these state pages, but I do appreciate what people like Reed Coverdale are doing, where he's saying no unity with these, he calls them bitch fuck cucks or whatever. But he does think that, libertarians and liberty movement in general should be uniting. Where are you on the liberty unity movement?
I think the people who are most of the people, the ones that I know that are pushing big for liberty unity are great guys, and I appreciate their involvement and their support. And I think that the Libertarian Party does need more unity in general. But I'm not sure how I'm supposed to unify with someone who calls me a Nazi, an internalized misogynist, a white supremacist, someone that thinks I should be thrown in a volcano, dipped in acid, or have my body broken in half over your head. That was a really weird one.
Over my head.
So, yeah, I'm not really sure. How does that work? How do I unify with people who hate my guts and want something bad to happen to me?
Sure.
How does that, and then here's my other issue with it is it's sort of like, I guess a good analogy maybe is like bullying on the playground. Like you see someone getting picked on and ignoring a bully and ignoring a bully and ignoring a bully for weeks, right? And then the bully like takes it too far and you see the kid like flip out and punch the dude in the face. And then what does the teacher do? Teacher comes in and is like, you guys got to stop fighting. I don't care who started it. Actually, it's kind of important who started it. If someone has been harassing you and tormenting you and making your life miserable, picking on your kids, doxing your family for months or years, and then someone else comes and says, I think you guys should patch things up. Yeah, okay, I'm open to gratuitous apologies.
Right.
But it doesn't make any sense to unify with someone who is hell-bent on destroying you.
Sure. No, I agree with you fully.
And
I want to bring this up. Yesterday Jackie Perry was almost unanimously, except for the chair, abstained because she was part of the what was going on.
Sure.
But Jackie Perry was removed from membership in the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. Now, if anybody has followed Jackie Perry at all for a long time, they know that pretty much all of us have been called Nazis by her repeatedly. I've been called an abuser. I've been called a deadbeat dad. I've been called somebody who can't keep a job, all these crazy things. So yesterday when she was removed from New Hampshire, I took a victory lap, okay? I'm excited about it. I'm not at all mad about it. I do not want unity with those kind of people, those slanderous fucking assholes. I don't want unity with slanderous pieces of shit who use lies and deceit to try and bury their political opponents in the same party. Mind you,
it's
and so anyways, a bunch of people came to finger wag at me. Hey, I was like, I just went through 4 years of this shit.Ut up.
No, there's no finger wagging when someone who behaves in such a disgusting manner is kicked out. That's good. We do need to be celebrating it because it shows that our community is accountable. This is like a real problem, I think, right now in the Libertarian Party, is everyone screams about freedom. Freedom, 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 freedom. But no one's ever willing to talk about responsibility.
True.
And you need to have personal responsibility, and you need to hold people accountable. You need to be responsible as a community when people engage in that sort of disgusting behavior. doxing, harassing people's children, bringing their families up into this crap, calling people abusers and that kind of disgusting slander. Those people need to be kicked to the curb. And unity with them is a complete joke.
Sure.
But more than that, like we need to have the balls and the self-esteem to say, like, yeah, I'm glad that that person's gone and our party is better for it. I don't think there's a lot of people that I would say that about, but she's one of them. And there are a handful of other people where I'm like, yeah, I do hope that your state party expels you. Bye.
I mean, I'll name all of them right now. You know what I mean? I have no problem. You know, I have no problem whatsoever. So let's go on to the second part of that. So the Liberty Movement, and then those within the party that call Tom Woods, Dave Smith disparaging names. Okay, so those are all the same people, you know, that I refuse to unite with. I mean, it's the people who are calling Dave Smith and Tom Woods neo-Nazis and neo-Confederates and this and that and this and that are the same people who went after me for the last 4 years. And they're the same people who are going after Angela McArdle now. I almost said Fisher Owens, which is someone that I have no problem with being removed from the party, by the way. In fact, if you guys could find a way to remove Angela Fisher Owens from the party, I will fly to wherever you're at and give you a big hug. She's a horrible, shitty person. But those are the same people. And what do you think it is that makes these people do this kind of shit? We know that it's not going to help the party. We know that it's slanderous, lying bullshit. We just saw a petition go up to remove Tom Woods as a speaker for a fucking breakfast at the Libertarian National Convention in 2022. We put out a new one in response to that to make him the speaker of the entire national convention, and it's already like 5 times the original petition. So we know that they're more popular with bringing in libertarians to the movement. Why do you think these people are so hell-bent on getting rid of those kind of people?
I'm trying to figure out why these people were ever attracted to libertarianism. They, as we saw during the lockdowns, they don't actually care that much about freedom. They hate personal responsibility because they never are willing to be accountable for their own words or actions. I don't really get it. It's like they're like Democrats who like Ayn Rand and love cancel culture. It's a really weird type of person. So I feel like we got to figure out like what is drawing them to the party. And I guarantee you, if I get elected chair, they're going to rage quit and leave because they're just going to hate it. They're just going to hate it.
One can hope.
but yeah, how do we get rid of them?
No, it was what do you think what do you think makes them act this way? I mean, what do you think it is? Do you think that, you know, for me, I think that some of them, and I've been open about this, I think some of them are infiltrating from either other parties or from some alphabet agency to try and cause chaos in the party. I definitely feel that way about the Owens. I've said in the past that I felt that way about Nick Sarwark, and Scott Horton got really mad at me, but I still feel that way. You know what I mean? I don't know why anybody would go. Yeah, he got really mad at me, but I don't know why anybody would.
Oh, he got mad at me too.
Oh yeah, I'm sure, but I don't know why anybody would do the things that they have done unless you were trying to cause chaos.
Well, you know, there's this weird scream at the sun, SJW vibe that they all have. They all behave that way. And so maybe they're a Fed or a whatever. And everybody, you know, so half of the people think it's true. Maybe half of the people in the LP laugh it off. But when you talk to old timers in the party, they will tell you that there were absolutely like CIA people present around the founding of the party. They were very interested in what we were doing. If you look into the Black Panther movement, they were definitely infiltrated by feds and other alphabet agencies. So before we just dismiss it and laugh it off, I do think it's important to know political history of revolutionary movements, even if they're not libertarian movements, and understand that these agencies do have a vested interest in knowing what the hell we're doing and trying to keep us from succeeding. So, you know, caveat there. I get it. We don't have evidence. I don't have Jackie Perry's contract with the FBI, but you know, these things have happened in history and we would be well advised to be aware of them. Short of that, you know, I think that we have in this country sadly raised, you know, like this millennial generation of people who are just hair triggered, soft, don't know what real struggle and adversity is like, and they've also rarely encountered real violence. And so I think that they're just completely spoiled and don't have much perspective. And that is sort of it, I don't know what pulls the trigger, but that sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Background, it loads the gun for that kind of crappy behavior. I guess it'll be difficult to know, right, if any of them are ever feds, but I'm very open to the idea. I think it's very possible. I wish I had a solid answer as to why people behave this way.
Sure. Well, I'm just going to go with they're all feds because it makes me sleep
Fair
better
enough.
at night. It's the only reason I can think of it. They're either feds and I've explained it several times. I think, the libertarian for many decades has been this very small pond, and you can feel like a rock star.
Yep.
Like, and I talked about, my last chair run in person, the in-person convention. You guys made me feel like an absolute fucking rock star. I mean, like, people were chanting, break the cycle. It was insane. Like, we had the room. There was no doubt about it. It wasn't even close. We had the room. And that's the kind of feeling that people get when they're a big name in a little party. And so if you make the party really big and you dilute these problem people's voices, their voice gets much smaller. They no longer feel like the rock star. And now they have no more power, whatever little power they had in the party. And so for me, it's kind of that death knell, right? They feel their power, their whatever perceived power they have is slipping away, and their voices are not going to matter anymore. I mean, nobody's going to be like, oh, I wonder what Andrew Craig thinks about this. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's going to care anymore because the pond is no longer a pond, it's the ocean. And, you don't, when somebody does something fucking stupid in the Republican Party, right? Like when I lived in Clark County, Washington, the chair of the Clark County GOP got caught like embezzling funds from the GOP. And nobody in Florida knew about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if that happened in one of our county affiliates in the Libertarian Party, the entire Libertarian Party would know about it within a week. And that's because it's so small. I mean, we have 15,000 national members. Of course, we have a lot of different state members and various, but we hear about everything that's crazy that happens in this party. So if you can get a little bit of voice, everybody's going to know who you are. And that's a really cool feeling, And so that's kind of been my take on it, is these people are afraid to lose their lily pad in the pond where they get to stand up and say what they want to say. And everybody's like, yeah, good job, Andrew Craig. You're right. Racism is bad, So
How brave, stunning and brave to say in the year 2021 that racism is bad.
Right. Like that's
Have you heard?
Number one issue.
It was the first time I had heard about it was when I saw Andy Craig talk about it on social media. I was like, oh my, wow. It never occurred to me that racism is bad. Bigotry is bad.
Yeah. Repugnant. We have to keep saying that it's bad and repugnant over and over and over again, or no one will ever believe us in 2021 that racism is bad.
Libertarians are so incredibly insecure. It's it's just simping for SJW cancel culture. It's really gross.
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely become this thing where it's like, we're going to get all these leftists and Democrats to join the Libertarian Party, and you're like, no, dude, they fucking hate you. You'll be the first person. They will line you up against the wall before they line up the Republicans. There's no doubt about it.
Yep. Absolutely.
No doubt.
My own friends behaved that way towards me when I came out against lockdowns in California. They were just straight up like, I hope you die. Oh, okay. Okay.
No, I get it. I mean, I've had friends like that as well, and people who are like, I've had friends on the right and the left leave me because I became a libertarian. Friends on the right that were like, "Oh, you unpatriotic asshole," and walk away from me. I'm like, I just don't want to keep bombing people overseas, man. Is that really unpatriotic? I think that's like the most patriotic stance you could take is let's stop using all of our money to kill people we don't know overseas. You know what I mean? That's pretty patriotic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's isn't from their perspective, wouldn't that be America first? Like we're going to stop sending people off to be murdered in war?
Well, I think some of the America First people aren't actually America First. They just don't realize that they're probably they're more about going to war for reasons that they don't know than they are about America First. And of course, a lot of these people put Israel first as well. So it's unfortunate as somebody who. I don't talk about that a lot, but we literally are like the armed protection for Israel in the Middle East. So
Yep.
I don't know. It's pretty crazy stuff. They got another super chat from Matt Lally. He said, thank you. He said, if we want to get some billionaires funding the libertarian movement, we know where to find them. Bitcoin. Yes, we do. Drywall O, thanks for the super chat. He just said, yep. I don't know what he's asking there. But so speaking of the GOP and the Republicans, okay. Two questions. One, why the Mises Caucus? Why are you so heavily involved in the Mises Caucus? What do you think they mean to the movement? And then we'll talk a little bit about why the Libertarian Party as opposed to the GOP, especially since I just had Tho Bishop on the show a couple days ago. So, but let's start off with the Mises Caucus specifically. What was it about the Mises Caucus that drew you to the caucus?
I just was really excited about it as soon as I saw it pop up on Facebook. It really blew me away because my red pill into the libertarian movement was reading about the Federal Reserve. And so when I saw that there was someone who was putting together a project to bring libertarians together who were excited about Ron Paul and who wanted to chant in the Fed, that was like, oh, sign me up. That's like literally exactly why I'm here. Those are two big parts of why I want to be involved in this movement. So to me, it was just like an absolute no-brainer.
Sure. Yeah, the Mises Caucus. It was the same for me as well, but when I joined it, it was 50 people in a Facebook group. So
right.
It's a whole different beast now, man. You know, it's definitely the largest part of the Libertarian Party at this point, in my opinion. You know, and the numbers.
I think probably, yeah.
Yeah. And,
I think our numbers are really incredible and still growing.
Yeah. I think last time I checked, the caucus was taking in like 15. What was it, like almost 10,000 a month or something? I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot more than it was.
It's over. I think it's over 14K a month right now. Okay.
Yeah, because I knew it was getting close to 15, and when I was first with the caucus, we were like, "Hey, we're bringing in $800 a month," you know.
Yeah.
So pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool to see. But so why the Libertarian Party? Why are you so sure that the Libertarian Party can be the vehicle in this country? You know, I had Tho Bishop on recently, and Tho is anti-liberty unity in general. I mean, not just in the party, but in general. He thinks that we should all be in the Republicans or the Democrats, he said. He said if you don't agree with the Republicans, go to the Democrats and work for liberty from the Democrats. Why is the Libertarian Party the party that's going to get things done in the United States?
You know, not opposed. How do I want to say this? I am opposed to unity with people who call me a Nazi, a fascist, a white supremacist, you know, a misogynist, all of that crap. I'm also opposed to unity with people who want to bomb brown children in the Middle East. I'm opposed to unity with people who want to jack up our deficit to the point where, you know, we're going to be debt slaves in the future, or our economy is going to implode and we're going to be like Venezuela. And I'm, you know, I guess being opposed to all of the rampant cancel culture that's within this like small leftist segment within the LP will make me naturally opposed to cancel culture that has run rampant and taken over the Democratic Party. I just don't see how I could ever be involved in either organization. I just don't. Sure, you know, like if you had a magic wand and you wanted to clean up the GOP and make it the Libertarian Party, okay, you know, but short of magic, I just don't see how that's a viable alternative to the Libertarian Party. And it is very difficult to take over. There are deep state people who control a lot of that stuff. It's not the same as going in to try to take over the LP. There are people who murder you if you step out of line in the GOP and obviously the DNC. So I'm not really sure how realistic it is for us to try to go and infiltrate. I wish Tho Bishop and Erica Brakey and anyone else the best of luck in cleaning up their GOP state parties. It's just not something that I think is ethical, and it's not something I'm interested in.
Sure, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the culture war. You know, there's been times where people have said you're too far right or this and that. And then you said some things about Hotep Jesus that everyone got really mad at. I had Hotep Jesus on the show. It was a good show. He said some things I didn't agree with, but it was a good show, you know. Where do you stand on this culture war? Do you think that's a thing?
It's definitely a thing. It's very real. I wish it wasn't. You know, I tell people that I'm not woke. I'm not anti-woke. I'm awake. That's my little thing.
Nice.
So What I mean by that is like, I'm not interested in just being like a reactionary to the woke left. I just want to reject it entirely. And that means saying stuff that's going to really piss them off. But it also means, that I'm not going to be like, like an alt-right own the libs kind of person either, because that is, I think, culturally and morally, like the wrong thing to do. I think that woke politics is an absolute cancer, and I don't like how it has infiltrated the LP. And I think that you can be compassionate without compromising your principles and without being like a reprehensible person that wants to cancel people because they said something offensive. I really think that the Libertarian Party needs to embrace free speech a lot better than it does right now, because now everybody's terrified to say things, and it's because we've let cancel culture infiltrate our organization, and it's just really sad.
Sure. I agree. I think there's so many people in the Libertarian Party that are advocate for cancel culture all the time. They want you removed from social media, and they want your,
Yep.
I'm sure there's plenty of people that want my show deplatformed. And I'm like, I haven't even said anything very controversial on here, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Have I had a couple of controversial guests on? Sure. Maybe a few, one or two here and there. But how do you feel about, do you think that people like Maj Touré and Hotep Jesus and Dave Smith and Tom Woods, I mean, I feel like they're a net benefit on the Libertarian Party. What do you think?
They're a huge net benefit, and they're all really different. So Hotep is not officially associated with the LP.
Or any political party.
He spoke at the California convention at our Mises Caucus event. And you know what he got up and said? He talked about his background. He talked about branding. He said that he loved libertarians and that he loved that we were independent thinkers. He gave us advice. He was incredibly sweet and charming. He talked about growing up, like in a nice, wealthy neighborhood, but having family in the hood. And he gave us just like a lot of interesting like background and perspective on him and how to reach out to the Black community and how to reach out to other people too. Like, it was just really great. And there was really nothing controversial in his talk. So that was kind of interesting, right? People are all like paranoid. Oh, he's going to say something offensive. And he didn't even do that. And then I was just at the Delaware Liberty Speaks event, which is an event that they had right before their convention, and Maj spoke. And he talked to us about how to do outreach to the Black community without pandering. He talked about how to do outreach to the gun rights community. He gave us a lot of valuable information. And, he cracked jokes and dispelled myths about why people think he's a bigot. It's because he has like some coarse language. He has gay friends. He's not crappy to gay people. But like I said before, a lot of us are too soft. We grew up in this culture of being coddled and, words are violence and that kind of nonsense. So people get easily offended. I don't know what the hell is wrong with anyone who insults Tom Woods. Tom is a really good friend of mine. He is a very generous, kind person.
He's like the biggest sweetheart I know. There's no doubt.
It's like going after Tom with cancel culture. It's to the same insane extreme as it is to dig up someone's tweets from like 20 years ago that are not even that bad. Like, people are mad because he was associated with the League of the South a long time ago. Briefly. Let me go. Brief. It was very brief, and it wasn't that much of an association. And I would love everyone to just go through their personal history and write down a list of every, not bigoted, but slightly off-color thing you've ever said, and just present it on social media for us to all rip apart. Because that's sort of what it comes down to. You have to hunt for something bad on Tom Woods, and then you have to completely blind yourself to any refutation or evidence that has given to the contrary. When people say, oh, that's definitely not true. Here's the words right from Tom. Here's this, here's that. Here's all this data on Tom Woods showing how incredibly wholesome and sweet he is. and now he's not an asshole, and he's not a bigot, and he's not they refuse to read up on it, right? Like there's all this evidence that shows how great he is. People who don't like Tom Woods, that's a really good litmus test to me. That's a good litmus test for whether or not someone has good character. If you hate on Tom Woods, you're probably not that great of a person.
Sure, I agree. I've had lots of interactions with Tom Woods over the last 4 years, and he's been just the sweetest sweetheart I've ever met. In fact, I'm very excited. He's going to come on my very small show soon in July, I believe the beginning of mid-July. So that's going to be a lot of fun to have Tom on. But so what's next for you? Traveling all over the country? Where are you going?
Oh man, I'm going all over the place. I just got back from Delaware and Chicago. This weekend I'm going to Florida for their convention, and they're going to have some really great events. After that, I'm going to North Carolina. The last week of the month, I will be in PorcFest, and then I'm flying out to attend the last day of the Michigan Libertarian Party convention on Sunday, and I'll be speaking there. So I'm hitting the circuit. I have a really good debate at PorcFest with Jeremy Kauffman, who I actually really like, about what the future of the liberty movement should be. Is it the LP or is it the Free State Project? So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I have Jeremy Kauffman coming on the show in like 2 weeks as well, so it's going to be a lot of fun. From what I understand, he's the guy running the New Hampshire page now. So is he part of the party? He's like joined the party. So it's going to be it's going to be really interesting having that debate. I think the Free State Project's amazing. I think there's other states we should be doing that in too, but still using the party. I mean, and both of them at the same time cannot be a bad thing.
Yep.
But where do you stand on some of these new based Libertarian Party state affiliate social media pages like Libertarian Party of Kentucky, Libertarian Party of Connecticut? Obviously, the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, it has over 12 million people who have seen their posts over the last like 3 days, which is insane to think about. I mean, yeah, did they edgelord a little bit? Yeah, but if you really listen to what they're saying, it's libertarian principles. Of course, we don't believe that the government should tell kids they aren't allowed to have jobs. I had 2 paper routes when I was 9 years old. Right. 9. I would love for my son to be able to have a paper route and learn the value of earning your own money, but I can't do that anymore because only adults can do it, and you have to have a car and all this bullshit. You don't get to come home from school and be excited about wrapping up your papers and putting them in your bags and riding your bike down the street, throwing papers. And then on Friday nights, you get to go to like the telethons where you try to get new subscribers to the newspaper and you win candy treats and stuff. Like, you don't get to do that anymore. Where do you stand on these pages that are going hardcore in the paint?
I absolutely commend them for going for it. I think some of it needs to be a little bit more polished, but that is such a small problem compared to everything else going on. We don't need people at the national level or at the state level tearing people down when they're trying really hard to make a good difference. We need people to encourage them. We need people to back them up. And if you have criticism of something, rather than shitting all over someone for giving it a try, why don't you offer to give them help? I'm really happy to see these affiliates speak out against lockdowns and some of the incredibly unlibertarian policies that have taken over our country, like not letting kids, work. I worked as a kid too, and it was a much better way to spend my time than some of the ways some of my friends spent their time. It builds character, it builds money. Growing up, like, I was pretty poor. My dad was a preacher for a small church, and I needed to work sometimes to make money. Like, I mowed lawns. That's like weird, I mowed lawns. Like, I can't imagine going through life in that sort of financial state and not being able to work. That would have been devastating to me as like a 13-year-old. Like, I wanted money, to go out with my friends and go to a movie or go to the like school football game or whatever, like the mall. So I commend LP New Hampshire and LP Kentucky for getting out there and getting their feet wet. And it's tough too, because they're dealing with a lot of haters, and that I know can be really demoralizing. So I encourage them to keep trying, hone your craft, look into, if I had any advice to give, it would be advice on solidifying branding and copywriting language. It's not tone policing or their messaging. I really appreciate them going out and giving it a shot.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's definitely a big victory for us to see some of these state affiliates doing that. But I think the biggest victory that we've seen over the last couple of months has got to be the Libertarian Party of Nevada. For anybody who's been paying attention, the Libertarian Party of Nevada couldn't say one word about any of the COVID tyranny over the last year, but they did take an entire week to shit on Ron Paul, an entire week of shitting on Ron Paul. And now that entire state affiliate, every single board position has been taken by the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus. And if you go to their social media now, you might see it a little bit different than what it was over the last several years. You were there, right?
Yes.
How did that feel?
I was there. Oh boy, there was so much tension in there. Like, you could cut the inner knife in that room. It was intense. So Joe Bishop Hinchman didn't show up to the convention. He was slated to speak for 10 minutes or something. And he might have had food poisoning. I don't know exactly what was going on, but the rumor was that he wasn't feeling well, so he didn't show up. So I showed up, and they had asked ahead of time if they would let me speak for 10 minutes. And of course, the old ex-com said no. So we got in, and I was helping them with Robert's Rules, which is what I do when I go to these conventions. I help people with their nerd problems, And they made a motion to have me speak, and the former chair was just like, oh, well, that's not allowed. You're not allowed to amend the agenda. They're just straight up lying and just trying to cheat. It was so bad that Alexander de Benedetto even called them out on it and was like, that's allowed. You're allowed to try to change the agenda. It was shameful. So they let me speak. They let Anthony Samaroff speak. And once the election started, it's just rolled like clear majority for me, every single position. Not a single election was close. And, by the end of it, it was good vibes. There were a couple of people who were trying to, they were bad vibes, but that was we were kind of walling them off, just like a Liberty energy wall around your like bad vibes. It was incredible.
Sure.
If you haven't had any of the show, I would recommend. Brian Elliott too, the treasurer, has some really interesting perspective. He's really good friends with some of the people at Reason. He's like an older guy. He's retired. And he is really on fire for the Mises Caucus. So I think that is a really good indication that what we're doing is right. Because we're not just pulling in 20-year-old edgelords. We've got retirees who have worked in like economics, rooting for us and saying that this is like the only viable option. That we've got to clean up estate parties and we've got to try to protect the future of our grandchildren. So.
Sure, I agree fully. It was definitely one of the, after the 4 years of traveling around with the Mises Caucus target on my back, it was so cathartic to see Nevada just fall. Like it wasn't even a problem at all. In fact, there was somebody from in 2020. So in 2020, it was still heavily run by those same people. And someone from the Libertarian Party of Nevada told me, you won't get one vote from Nevada. And then I got one vote from Nevada, and everyone lost their shit. They couldn't believe it. They're like, what the hell? Who did it? I know who it was. I'm not going to name any names. I don't want them to have any problems with some people they used to be friends with. But it was pretty cool to see that change in 1 year, to the point of where if I was still running, I'd probably get, if not the majority, completely all of their delegates. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I'm super stoked for you. I know that you're going to do well in 2022. I'll be there to see it. Definitely. I'm very excited. And if you guys aren't supporting Angela McArdle for chair of the Libertarian National Committee, what are you doing with your lives, man? Where can the great people watching this show find you at, Angela?
You can find me at angelamcardle.com. I post a lot of convention updates there, and you can also get some really in-depth updates on my Patreon. That's patreon.com/Angela McArdle.
Sure. And how can the great people help you? What is the most important thing for people to do to help you become chair?
So I've done this really interesting experiment where I know the chair position is unpaid, and I don't anticipate, I'm not going to ask to get paid, but I did say that I would chair the party full-time if I could get $2,000 a month on Patreon, and I am more than halfway to my goal. At this point, anyone who's supporting me on Patreon, the money goes basically just to my travel fund and all the other libertarian stuff that I do, running LA County and so on and so forth. So that sort of support is really appreciated.
I started that experiment in 2020, by the way. I was going to do the same thing. That's why I started my Patreon. Then I was like, oh, I'm going to start this show as well. And so I started the show. I lost chair. I only did like 3 shows audio. And then I was like, I need to get back to this. I got people in Patreon, and I'm like slowly losing people in Patreon. I'm like, oh, shit. But thankfully, I finally got around to doing the show again. And there's a lot of great people who are stoked to use my Patreon. But go and help out Angela McArdle win this thing. Become a delegate, man. That's the real important thing. Give the lady your money, but become a delegate. Go to your state party, sign up with your state party, and learn how you can become a delegate for the Mises Caucus. They'll help you out. I mean, we had Airbnbs at the National Convention in Orlando last year for people who couldn't afford a hotel. I mean, the Mises Caucus will help you out if you want to become a delegate for the Mises Caucus. So definitely check that out.
Get active. Attend a county or state level meeting at least once every other month. 6 times a year. That's not too much to ask. An hour of your life, 6 times a year.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Angela, I appreciate you. You know you have my support. If Iowa will make me a delegate, I need to go and get more involved with the Iowa State Party, definitely. But we have been busy, and we are definitely getting some cool time now. But I look forward to your imminent win for chair of the Libertarian National Committee, and thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for laying all that groundwork you did.
Of course. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Another awesome show on Break the Cycle. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. Definitely go and support Angela, whether it be financially, whether it be through the party. If you can join your local affiliate and your state party, become a delegate to the National Convention. It's going to be at the Golden Nugget in Reno Sparks, Nevada in 2022. I think it's July. If you guys have never been to Reno, I call it Little Dirty Vegas. It's a lot of fun. Bringing 1,200 libertarians there is going to be wildly insane. You're going to love it. Definitely go check it out. Also, check out my sponsors, Lorenzotti.coffee, for all your delicious Italian coffee needs delivered directly to your door. Bring the taste of Italy home. Use BTC at checkout for a 10% discount. And, of course, TopLobster.com, my friend, my partner, the man who does all of the art for the show. Go check him out, man. You got awesome stuff. You can also show your support for the Tower Gang by going and buying this shirt on Top Lobster. Use BTC at checkout for a 10% discount. And now there's a new perk to my Patreon with Top Lobster. He's putting out new designs all the time. You have an opportunity if you become the $5 a month or more tier in the Discord chat. He will drop his designs there first. You'll have about 2 weeks to buy new Top Lobster designs at a 30% discount, which is insane. You're going to be able to get shirts for like $15. Awesome stuff. Go check out the Patreon at patreon.com/breakthecyclejs. But go to Top Lobster and give that man your money. Use BTC at checkout for the normal 10% discount from the show. And of course, executive producers of the show, anthemplanning.com. Wonderful people. They are emergency and crisis planning needs. They can help you out your business or your personal life. Check them out. See what they can do for you today. Coming up on the show, Friday, I'm going to have Olivia Rondeau on the show. I'm super excited for this one. She is a liberty-leaning independent conservative. She's also a collegiate wrestler, and she's a badass. I'm very excited to talk not just liberty with her, but also wrestling. If you didn't know, I was a wrestler for about 14 years, so should be a good conversation. And then next Monday, we're going to have the godfather of the Mises Caucus himself, Michael Heiss, on the show. I'm so excited. He has become one of my best friends over the last 4 years. We've been through absolute hell together. So you're not going to want to miss that show. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully he won't chew gum on my show. We'll see, though. And next Wednesday, we're going to have Brian Nichols from The Brian Nichols Show on. This is one of the nicest guys in the world. We talked a lot about how nice Tom Woods is. If you could take it a level above Tom Woods in nice factor, it's Brian Nichols. He's a wonderful dude. I'm very excited to have him on. Nobody talks more about how to message and bring liberty people to the libertarian movement than Brian Nichols. So it's going to be a fun one. And then the following Friday, I'll have my friend Josh Cybulski on, who wrote a wonderful book. We're going to talk all about it. Check out the Patreon. Like I said, if you can, please check out the patreon.com/breakthecyclejs or subscribestar.com/breakthecyclejs. Either one. Help me support the show, make the show a full-time thing. I'm getting to a point now where I'm doing 3 shows a week, but I will continue probably doing 4 shows a week next month, and eventually would like to do 5 to 6 shows a week. But I need your guys' support, so if you can help me out, go check out the Patreon or Subscribe Star. There's really awesome tiers on there. You can get yourself some cool gear, exclusive gear that nobody else can get. The Mug Club, where you get an awesome mug, and you get into the Discord chat. I will start doing live AMAs and stuff like that with the patrons, but I'm also going to be doing that with the new function here on YouTube, where you can join a membership on YouTube and become a member of this channel. You get awesome badges, hand-drawn by Top Lobster, and also awesome custom emojis. So please check all that stuff out. I appreciate you guys. I will see you Friday for the show with Olivia Rondell. But until then, don't forget to break the cycle.
Due to legal reasons, I just have to explain. The lyrics of my last song may seem to contain a violent call to action in the verse and refrain, but I just meant it in Minecraft. The helicopter part was in reference to GTA 5 and the things you do. So any violence you commit, I am not an excuse, because I just meant it in Minecraft. Well, Chipper is my friend and he's constantly cold. Accusations of incitement getting totally old. Make your own choices, yeah, you have control, because I just meant it in Minecraft. Obviously I would never advocate force, unless there's due process and a trial, of course. And if you're convicted, we will make you a corpse in Minecraft, just in Minecraft.